Hi guys, welcome to another edition of the Masters Fantasy Football League's Dynasty Spotlight Series. Before we hop into today's show, I just want to remind you guys, if you're not in any Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues, we highly recommend it. It's fantasy football year-round, off-season trading, rookie drafts in the summers. The fun really never ends. We've got a ton here at Masters looking to start up plenty more this off-season, so come be a part of the Masters family. So today's show, we're going to highlight Florida quarterback Kyle Trask. He's a bigger guy, 6'5", 240.
Yep.
A lot of scouts like the size, but, his career was a little shaky. Didn't always get the opportunities, but this year he had quite a season. So the doc here is going to break down his game a little more.
All right. Yeah, so Kyle Trask is a very interesting player. Actually, a very crazy story. The fact that he backed up
Derek King
in high school, so never really played. And then he was a backup at Florida, never really played. And then he got his opportunities, and he made the most of them. Kyle Trask is a guy that can pretty much make all the throws. Not a great arm, but a good enough arm. And, the accuracy on the short to intermediate range throws was pretty good this year. And granted, Dan Mullen has a good track record with quarterbacks, and he had some pretty good weapons to throw the ball to as well. So those are obviously things that helped him out. Some areas where I think he's probably getting some questions asked would be athleticism is one. I feel like this is an area where we see today's quarterbacks, almost all of these guys have a little bit of dual threat to them. Kyle Trask's not really at all. You saw him do some short yardage, like power runs, that part he's got, but in terms of like making things happen off script, it's something that you don't really see him do a whole lot. And the other thing, too, is, he's had some issues with some deep ball accuracy. We saw that a little bit this season. But at the same time, I think he's a really good player, and he's a guy that you could probably get really good value on, and that's for real NFL teams, too, as he seems to be slipping a little bit in the draft. I think Kyle Trask is a guy that, he's overcome a lot of adversity for sure, and that's the kind of guy I've got a little bit of faith in. In terms of pro player comparisons, this one was kind of easy for me, and I think Alec, it was the same for him. He just reminds me of Big Ben, and maybe Big Ben with a little less arm talent, we'll say that. A little less of that natural talent, but either way, he's a smart guy, he's got that big build, and we saw what he did at Florida. He's a talented kid, and he can make a lot of good stuff happen. So yeah, I like his chances going forward.
Yeah, you really hit on all the points there. I love the story. Being a backup in high school to Derek King, being a backup most of his college career to Felipe Franks. It's really just a cool story to see him, because he had a prolific season this past year. If you don't know. But again, like you said, the Dan Mullen connection and throwing to guys like Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney.
Right.
Those are two guys we've highlighted on other spotlight shows. So if you haven't given those a look, not too late to go check now.
Yeah, might as well go watch them.
Yeah. Not going to regret it. We can
love it.
Yeah. But, so I like the Big Ben comparison a lot, just from a size standpoint. You just don't get a ton of big quarterbacks these days like him who can just stand tall in the pocket and hang in there. When you're talking about, doesn't have much mobility and this, that, I was thinking, the Super Bowl quarterback this year didn't have a lot of mobility either.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think that guy's done all right. So I think Tom Brady's a stretch for a pro player. But no, the thing that I think is really cool about him is, his draft range, you see it anywhere from the first round to the third round. He could go anywhere. He's been a backup a lot before, so I kind of think, he's a guy who could, slip to the second round, land on a team who already has a quarterback.
Right.
Maybe it's a spot like Tampa, someone who's looking for the heir to the throne. Kind of the situation Jordan Love fell into with Green Bay. I think, there's teams out there who have good older quarterbacks who could look at Kyle Trask as, this is a guy we can get him maybe round 2, maybe round 3, sit him for a year or two, let him grow, be a great backup, and then maybe one day, he is a starter and can put up some numbers. So, also just New England is a team that kind of sticks out to me as somewhere he could go and start right away. I see New England as a good fit.
Definitely.
But yeah, do you have any other NFL fits you like a lot?
Yeah, so in terms of teams I could see him ending up on, I'm on the same wavelength as you. That's where teams like Tampa Bay, New Orleans was one for me. Pittsburgh was another one.
Yeah.
So teams that don't have to use a first-round pick on a quarterback, but can get a guy like Kyle Trask who has that first-round upside.
Yep.
So I think any of those spots would be a perfect landing spot for him, and give him that opportunity to get a little bit of wisdom from the vet ahead of him, and then maybe take the reins over someday. And I feel like the good part of that too is that in those three scenarios, he's going to a spot where the quarterback wasn't mobile. Breeze, Roethlisberger, Brady. And I think it'd be an easy transition for the offense to just kind of keep things the way they are, and you don't have to worry about any of those other things. Just keep things quick, play to his advantages. And
I completely agree with that. By the same token, it's also kind of why I was even thinking New England, which I know last year they had Cam Newton. But if you could just kind of go back to Tom Brady's New England with Josh McDaniels and put Kyle Trask in there, I could see New England, looking a little bit like the older Patriots, especially if they could get some added weaponry, which we know they desperately need.
Right. I like that call a lot.
But I think out of all the guys we've talked about, Kyle Trask probably has the widest range of draft outcomes. I mean, we see quarterbacks fly up super high, so it wouldn't be crazy to see him go top 15. It could happen. If a team loves them, they're going to take their guy at quarterback. But also, you could very easily see him fall to round 3.
Right. And what might bump it up, too, is that there's a good chance there's like 4 or 5 quarterbacks gone by pick 15.
So definitely an interesting guy to keep an eye on. I know I'm excited just because, the backstory is cool, and I think the talent's definitely there. It's just a matter of, does he land in the right system?
Right.
So, with all that in mind, we kind of always get into the Masters rookie part of the show. So assuming he goes to one of these destinations we like to try and guess, where could we see ourselves, if at all, taking him in a Masters rookie draft this upcoming summer?
So, me personally, I just think of last year how guys like, Justin Herbert and Jordan Love weren't really expected. I mean, obviously, we knew Jordan Love was going to play it all last year, unless there was injury. Justin Herbert, we didn't really expect to come in and play a whole lot. Tua, again, kind of the same. Didn't really know how much he'd play. And, Herbert went undrafted in a lot of rookie drafts. Tua was going like late second, early third in some cases, and Love not getting drafted either. I think just with that, as much as I think Trask is probably a little underrated at this point in the game, I mean, there's a good chance we don't even see him on the field for a couple of years, and for that reason, I mean, you can take a flyer on him in the 3rd round if you've got the room on your team. But if not, I mean, he's just one of those guys you're gonna have to keep your eye on and just wait to pick your moment and add him to your team before it's too late.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just because of the nature of the quarterback position in fantasy football, especially these Masters leagues where usually you don't have a ton of extra roster spots available. You're usually only rostering 2 to 3 quarterbacks, and you need guys who are basically playing right now. So we see guys like Jordan Love available in lots of leagues. So for that reason, I think he'd probably go undrafted in most rookie drafts. But that kind of leads into our next question about will he be relevant in 3 to 5 years? And I actually think there's a chance that answer is yes, even though we're now saying, don't draft him in your rookie draft. But hey, he might be relevant in 5 years. But that's kind of the nature of the quarterback position.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. And I mentioned it a little when I was giving the whole spiel on him as a player earlier, but where I think his upside is capped a little bit again is that athleticism. Like I said, I mean, almost every elite quarterback in fantasy football has that dual threat ability. They all have at least enough athleticism to make plays with their feet. Him not having that is a big hurt on his, ability to get up into relevant status for me. I could see him being a guy like I don't really even know who to compare him to. I wanted to say like Daniel Jones, but I know that'll make some people mad. But like a guy like
that's actually not a bad pro player comp.
It's not terrible.
So just another pro player comp with a young guy, and not to say their games are identical or anything, but a little bit similar college career path, and a little bit similar in talent to like a Joe Burrow. Had a quiet start to his career, obviously the transfer from Ohio State, but then just lights the world on fire senior. And it's exaczly what Kyle Trask did.
And it would have been very similar if he would have won the Heisman, which he was the favorite at certain points in the season last year. So that's an interesting comp.
But
I think it's one of those things where he's going to be in that kind of at the best if he is relevant, which I think he will be to an extent, but like in that 25 to 32 range, something like that, where you could start him a week and Yeah, he'll get you a solid performance, but for the most part, he's just going to be a guy in fantasy. I don't really see him being someone that you can, rely on going forward. I just don't really see it.
Yeah.
As much as I like his story and some of his ability too, I don't really see it.
Yeah. So one other name that just popped in my mind as you're talking, and I know this guy was actually a lot more athletic coming out of college and all that, but some
Tebow.
Some
Florida quarterback.
Yeah. Some of your description about just kind of making them sound boring, but then I thought sometimes the fantasy upside is just higher than we think. Almost like a Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
A guy you think of just as a guy, but then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, Ryan Tannehill kind of reestablished himself,
right?
And he's been a top 12 fantasy quarterback, I believe, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So just sneaky good value almost.
Yeah. Tannehill's been the perfect case for why me saying Trask won't be super relevant means nothing.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Tannehill was basically dead and gone in the NFL, and all of a sudden his career's he's been really, really good. Like his stats were comparable to Mahomes in his first 16 games with the Titans. I mean, it's crazy stuff you never would have expected to happen, but sometimes things change, and
opportunity and just timing is a lot of
right.
what success is in the NFL. Just a short period of time, the opportunity is right, and you can have a few fantasy relevant seasons and win yourself a couple championships.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything else to add with Kyle Trask?
No, I don't think I do.
Yeah,
I think that's everything.
So yeah. Kyle, if you're listening, we like you.
Mm-hmm.
We're wishing you the best. Hope you land in a nice spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
besides that, sign up for a Dynasty draft. They're coming.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an exciting time. The draft's coming up. You're thinking about all your prospects.
Free agency about
yeah. The trade offers are already starting to come in.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm excited. So sign up for a league. You won't regret it. And anything else in terms of players or people you want us to talk about, drop that in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time. I think the next couple we've got coming are Kenneth Gainwell and Mac Jones.
Yeah,
so keep an eye out for those.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Boom. Oh,